If you were to put the leading ladies of literature in a boxing ring, who would win? I know who my money's on. This contender might be battling against the legends of literature, but her rivals are too soft to live up to the name heroine. There's only one woman who's tough enough to win this title fight. It has to be the mother superior of girl power, the champion of all belles, the undisputed heavyweight of heroines, Scarlett O'Hara, star of My Biggest Read, Gone with the Wind. I came across Scarlett when I first read Gone with the Wind as a teenager. Despite being about 400 times the length of any book I'd read before, I just couldn't put it down. It was the most heart-rending, gripping, rip-roaring, sexy story I'd ever read. And for a know-it-all 15-year-old, it was quite a surprise to find out that a book could have that effect on me. I love Gone with the Wind because its central theme is fundamental to our existence. An instinct that used to be razor sharp when we were cavemen, but has gone soft as we've evolved. The animal response that means the difference between life and death, survival. Margaret Mitchell said if her book had one single theme, it's survival. She wondered what makes some people able to come through catastrophes and others go under. She said the survivors used to call it gumption. In Gone with the Wind, Mitchell ruthlessly sorts the men from the boys. But best of all, her gutsiest character is not some dashing young buck, but a ballsy, mouthy, willful woman, Scarlett O'Hara.
I will survive, keep on surviving.
We're first introduced to Scarlett when war is just talk, and her most pressing concern is who to flirt with. But already we get an idea that she's not all she seems.
The dress set off to perfection the 17-inch waist, the smallest in 3 counties. But for all the modesty of her spreading skirts, her true self was poorly concealed. The green eyes in the carefully sweet face were turbulent, willful, lusty with life. Her manners had been imposed upon her by her mother's gentle admonitions and the sterner discipline of her mammy. Her eyes were her own.
The problem with Scarlett is she just doesn't fit. Her mother implores her to be more gentle and demure, while her nurse mammy continuously harangues her to act like a lady, or she won't catch her husband. So, to ensure that every boy falls at her feet, the ever-crafty Scarlett makes valiant efforts to follow the rules and rituals of being a Southern belle. Scarlett knows how to smile so that her dimples leap, how to walk so that her skirts sway seductively, how to look into a man's face and then coyly drop her eyes so that she appears a-tremble with emotion. And she works hard to conceal from men a sharp intellect beneath a face as sweet as a baby's.
But such stiff social restrictions stifle her natural instincts, and inevitably her act begins to slip. Scarlett finds the road to ladyhood just a little hard.
She interrupts gentlemen when they're speaking and thinks she knows more than they do. She wears a dress that is just not appropriate for an afternoon barbecue. She's fed up of having to say she feels faint after one gentle waltz when she knows she could dance all night. She refuses to act like other young ladies who eat like birds. Scarlett eats like a field hand and gobbles like a hawk, despite Mammy's warnings that she'll never catch a husband. But above all, she's sick and tired of not being able to say what she really wants and do what she really feels. One of the most telling scenes in the book is when Scarlett is laced into her corset. The whalebone girdle perfectly embodies the restraints under which she was forced to live as a Southern belle in the 1860s. Her mother accepts these chains with dignity, and while not happy, she knows that this is a woman's lot.
It was a man's world, and she accepted it as such. The man owned the property, and the woman managed it. The man took credit for the management, and the woman praised his cleverness. The man roared like a bull when a splinter was in his finger, and the woman muffled the moans of childbirth, lest she disturb him. Men were rude and outspoken. Women were always kind, gracious, and forgiving.
I just love the corset scene because no matter how tight it gets, you know she's going to spend the rest of the book bursting free. Scarlett falls in love with the wrong man, the one heart that eludes her. Ashley admits that he loves her, but get this, says she's too demanding for him and rejects her. Sound familiar, girls? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. To pay Ashley back, she hastily marries the nearest man available, the timid and bland Charles Hamilton. He goes off to battle shortly after their wedding night, and then he dies, not in a fine glow of gallantry, but of the measles. This ill-fated marriage is disastrous for Scarlett. She's no longer a young, available flirt, but a widow with a child. Her life's about to get a lot tougher. Obsessive grieving became fashionable in the southern states, where English behavior was much admired. So when a family member died, an incredible list of harsh restrictions was forced on these women. Margaret Mitchell felt this was as barbaric as the Hindu tradition of sutti, when a widow has to throw herself on the funeral pyre of her dead husband. Southern widows were expected to wear black dresses, but the dye they used contained arsenic, so they often became weak, not through grief, but because they were being slowly poisoned to death. The only jewellery allowed was a wedding ring and an ornament made of her dead husband's hair. The black veil on her bonnet had to reach her knees and could only be shortened after a year. And most dreadful of all, for at least 3 years, widows could show absolutely no interest in any man. As Scarlett says, marriage was bad enough, but to be widowed, oh, then life was over forever. So does she fall into line? Does she, hell? At a local dance, Scarlett engages in the most scandalous and shocking act possible for a woman in mourning. She dances with a man.
It wasn't fair. Her feet were patting the floor, wanting to skip and dance. She had a wider bosom and a smaller waist and a tinier foot than any girl present, but for all they cared, she might as well be lying beside Charles with beloved wife of carved over her.
And as for her partner in this lewd act, enter Captain Rhett Butler, dark, dashing and dangerous, everything Ashley Wilkes isn't. Cut off by his prominent Charleston family for dishonorable behavior, Rhett, just like Scarlett, goes after whatever he wants, whenever he wants, using whatever means necessary, regardless of decorum. He knows full well Scarlett's no lady and likes her all the more for it. So much so, he's prepared to pay $150 just for one dance with her. Well, you can see why she had to say yes. It would be impolite to refuse. There's a lot more to Scarlett than the spoilt young flirt we meet in the first half of the book. It's when war comes to her doorstep that we begin to see what she's really made of, and we find that our heroine has more gumption than any soldier. Gone are the days spent flirting with boys and dancing at balls. To survive, she must cast away the stubborn, bitchy belle of her youth and transform into a woman so strong she's almost superhuman. Scarlett O'Hara, superheroine. Vowing that she'll never go hungry again, Scarlett does whatever she needs to survive. Under threat of death and starvation, the gloves are off. From then on, Scarlett is prepared to fight hard and dirty, really dirty. We begin to see the many faces of our heroine, and some of them aren't pretty. When it comes to fighting for home and family, she's prepared to commit every crime in the book. She becomes a killer. When a Yankee breaks into Tara to rob the place, Scarlett doesn't hesitate at shooting him point blank. She sells herself. Scarlett offers to be Rhett's mistress in exchange for Tara's tax money. He refuses. She becomes a home wrecker. Scarlett steals the man betrothed to her sister and, brazen as you like, enters a second loveless marriage for cash to save Tara. She becomes a career woman. Scarlett dares to become obsessed with her job and finds having a baby gets in the way of both her work and her waistline. She becomes a boozer. Scarlett does an unthinkable thing for a woman. She drinks. Imagine such a thing. Every single human characteristic is mixed up in Scarlett. Every vice and virtue is there. But in spite of all of this, we just can't help admiring her. Scarlett is an intoxicating heroine because, like all of us, she's deeply flawed, but she doesn't let her flaws hold her back. In the post-war South, Scarlett thrives while Ashley withers, and she finds there's no place in the New World for those without gumption. All too late, she realizes she loves Rhett, the only one who's her match, but he leaves her with those immortal words, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." And we're left with the biggest cliffhanger in literature. Will she get him back? What do you think? One thing's for sure, Scarlett never gives up. So what's her secret? What is it that makes people like her and Rhett survive and others perish? The answer's simple. The key to survival is changing with the changing times. That's what makes a fighter out of Scarlett.
We're not wheat, we're buckwheat. When a storm comes along, it flattens ripe wheat because it's dry and can't bend with the wind. But ripe buckwheat's got sap in it, and it bends. And when the wind has passed, it springs up almost as straight and strong as before. When trouble comes, we bow to the inevitable. And when we're strong enough, we kick the folks whose necks we've climbed over. That is the secret of survival.
You may not want Scarlett for your best mate, but I bet you wish you had the balls to be her. Come on, fess up, there's a bit of Scarlett in all of us. So put your money where your heart is. You know she knocks the others out cold. Vote for Scarlett's story, Gone with the Wind.